Hey everybody, I want to welcome you back. Today, right now we're going to be talking about fuel injection. We previously talked a little bit about ignition system, and we got a little bit into talking about fuel delivery, how it gets up to the fuel injectors, like that. So to start off with, I'm going to go ahead and start with our actual PowerPoint, like we normally do like this. So you should be seeing a pretty soon here. I got to share it with us. Hang on here. Let's go ahead and share it, or else I'll be talking about it and you won't be able to see it. All right. So uh, what I want to do is start talking about some basic stuff. Before we had fuel injection, we had carburetors. Now carburetors were a very mechanically driven type system. Uh, they had several circuits to them, and if one didn't work right, it affected the other ones. And they were not the best as far as fuel economy and also emissions. We did a lot with them back in the day. If I get a chance, I have a presentation just on carburetors for the people that like to still work on them. There's not too many people that could actually rebuild them, but we, but again, well, it is more advanced going into the fuel injection systems, and the fuel injection systems is where we're at. And depending on what model and year your vehicle is what kind of fuel injection system you might have in it. So this is you should be seeing fuel injection components in operation right now. And what we talked about in one of our presentations was about the fuel delivery part. So again, here the fuel pump is down in the tank, and we actually pressurize it up. And this particular one has a fuel filter right here. And believe it or not, there's still another fuel filter along the way too. It's right inside the injector to keep out any kind of extra debris that might be going on through. It's more of a screen than anything else. But we have the pump that pressurizes it up, goes through the actual this particular model through the filter, and it goes into what they call a fuel injection rail. So this rail feeds all the injectors. Now I see that it shows little hoses. Actually, it's connected directly to that fuel rail itself a lot of times. And then it goes through a kind of a pressure regulator. And this pressure regulator in this particular model actually has a vacuum hose going to a manifold source on the engine. So it actually sees what kind of load value is in the engine. And it can actually increase a lot of times up to 10 pounds per square inch pressure, and kind of manipulate it depending on what the load value is and going like that. So this is what's going to actually spray or mist a lot. And the good thing to do is have an injector that mist. The more it mists, the better it can actually combine with the air, and it kind of atomizes everything. And that way you get a better kind of burn. If you have an injector that doesn't mist properly or it just squirts, it can actually cause it to not burn efficiently. It won't mix and atomize correctly, and then you get raw fuel going right up through the tailpipe. So this is where there's surfaces to clean the injectors. Now injectors don't last forever. I've seen injectors go 200,000 miles, no problem, but I've seen injectors fail right at the 100,000 miles. So it just depends on the injection system and what kind of fuel you've been running through it, and how well you've taken care of your vehicle in the maintenance and all like that can actually be critical on that too. After it goes through that pressure regulator, so that regulator is going to allow it to drop the rest of the fuel back into the tank. So it's kind of a circular type system going through. It starts at the pump, goes through the injector rail, goes through the fuel pressure regulator, and brings it on back. Now we do have systems that are just non-returnless type systems that actually just go straight out, goes to the injectors, and that's it. And here's one of the early systems. And like I said before, we had carburetors, and the carburetors, like I said, were mechanically driven. Well, I consider this system a electronic carburetor, because it did pretty much the same thing that the carburetor did, but it did it as an electronic version of it. With this, we had fuel being delivered through, kind of similar to what a carburetor would do, but it would be forced down inside, have to actually populate through the whole intake system, and then the intake, it would bring it down into behind the intake valves, and then we would actually bring it on through into the cylinders, which there was a, it wasn't very efficient. It was better than a carburetor, but not as efficient as what they call port injection system, which we'll be talking about soon. So this is one way they actually did it on early models, and now pretty much all your vehicles are either a port injected or more common nowadays is gasoline direct injection, and we'll talk about that on the next actually slide show presentation, I should say. So, and now instead of being to where you had to actually populate all the intake system, and then he finally gets through here down into the valve. Now all we need to do is have air coming through the top, okay, and then we actually put the right amount of fuel right to the backside of the valve. So this actually helped it out quite a bit, and we could actually get the fuel to where we needed it. And we could actually manipulate this to, if we needed more fuel, it's more direct. Whereas if they had the throttle body type systems, which I showed this before, it would have to populate all that to get it into there, and it wasn't as quick as a response. It wasn't that big of a difference response, but it was a bit of a difference. And so if you wanted really something to performance, throttle bodies really didn't do it as well as port injection systems did. And here is the old throttle body system, and this is how it internally was. You had a regulator inside of it, and that regulator did the same thing as a rail type system, but it was all internal into that throttle body itself. And here is the fuel rail type system. And see, remember I said they were pretty much connected, and this is how we actually had them. And it was right onto the rail, not a tube coming out. This was actually connected right to it. And this would go right inside the, on the intake manifold. So this would be right into intake manifold, right on the, right next to the intake valve. So this would get it right directly into. We did have pulse dampeners. These pulse dampeners were good for keeping that noise, reduction down like that too. And here we actually have my fuel regulator on this particular model. Here's an injector, what it looks like if you were to look inside of it and cut it and look inside. It has a set of coils. It had, like I said, here's that filter I was talking about a little bit earlier. So this was kind of the last out filter, and then you had the fuel going through, and then it would actually go through, and this actually set of coil windings would allow when you applied voltage and ground to it, would allow to pull up that little what I call pendle, or that needle valve here, and that actually opens up and allows it to squirt the fuel through. Now that was a misting type. It was not just a squirt, there's misting going on. So I want to make sure you're clear on that too. And here is showing a good picture of the port injection systems, how it's actually spraying that atomized spray right behind the intake manifold valve, waiting for it to come. Now we had different types of systems would actually do it a little bit different, but this is kind of showing you a sequential type one right now, meaning that it sprays when it needs it. Okay, here's a port injection system. You can't really see a whole lot of it, can you? It's all buried underneath, but there actually is a set of injectors under that intake manifold, and this is what they call tune intake manifolds. And you'll notice it's not just a flat type manifold. It actually has little ports, and it actually has a little hump to it. This was actually calibrated through engineering of getting the air to actually allow it to tumble and pick up, to get into modes. And when it did get that fuel, it would atomize more efficiently too. Here's actually showing a diagram of how controlled it through a vacuum diaphragm type regulator. And again, the fuel comes in. When that comes up, it actually returns the fuel back. And here's kind of a cutaway showing that again. So if it's, here it's kind of allowing, well, I should say blocked off, so it's not going to return anything. So we have a big load value in the engine going, so vacuum is actually dropped. And whereas we have more applied vacuum on it right now, and it allows it to return some of the fuel back to the fuel tank. Cutaway of it and how it looks, here was filtered, of course, and that spring is allowing it to open and close. This is more of a electronic version of it, and this is actually, it actually has a pressure sensor on it too, so it can actually tell the computer, do I need to apply more voltage or less voltage? I should say more fuel, less fuel. I can, cause the pump to spin faster or slower just by actually running through this actual source itself too. And you'll notice something different right here. Where is the return? It doesn't have any return on it. And here's another one too, with the actual return here. It's kind of similar to our actual one we had before on our vacuum one, but this is actually doing it too. Again, we have another one, but this one is actually inside the tank also. Here we have an actual, rectangular shaped type of rail instead of the round type one. And you'll notice here's the service ports. We can actually check for pressure. And here's the injector down inside here with the connectors for it. And here's my injector cutaway again, just a little bit of a different way showing it. And how do you check to see if it, if you have one of these amazing machines? Yep, you can do it this way. And this is showing some good spray patterns for you. So you see it's spitting right here, and versus it's just this direct here, and not really a whole lot of mist to it. And here you can see the different patterns. And some of these injectors are just bad. Sometimes you can just clean them up, and sometimes you just can't. And this is one of the things I kind of wanted to show you. And this was a system that General Motors put out, and I called it Spider. It was a central porting fuel injection system. It had one injector inside here, and it had a set of tubing went down to each one of the different, cylinders right behind the intake valve. They would actually mist all the, pretty much off of a poppet valve, and it would actually cause it to mist inside it. And then when the intake valve opened up, it would allow that charge to go inside. Well, they had some problems with the injection systems. Here's that regulator that they had on. This would actually fail, and it would leak. And then you would have like one side of the engine very, very rich, and one side of the engine would be perfect. So that was a dead giveaway. I got very good at replacing these things, and now minivans were used them quite a bit in the 80s. And I would actually, they would give you 4 hours to change one of these out because you had to take the upper half of the intake manifold off. And I could do it in an hour and a half because I got, pretty quick at it. General Motors never really fessed up until later on that there was a problem with a vendor. And they did start, if you had under 100,000 miles on the vehicle, had receipts, they would pay you back to actually reimburse you the money like that. This is what the updated version was. It actually had a single injector for each one, which was really, really a much better setup. And it was, similar to the old one, but it made it a much better, cleaner setup. All right, so we will pass on to this stuff because it's more of an advanced talking about, air control on it. But we'll get a little bit into that as we go along. I do want to thank you for coming. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through the inbox, or you can go through the student lounge, and maybe one of your fellow students might have, or your classmates might have a answer for that question. And I will be monitoring and see what's going on. All right, talk to you soon. And we'll have another video come up soon. Talk to you soon. Bye.